Welcome to Loud and Clear, a program geared toward the younger generations. You can listen in every Thursday at 7 p.m. or find the plug to our YouTube channel on kgtcradio.com.
Hey, I'm Nathan.
And I'm Carlos.
And welcome to Loud and Clear. Today we are super excited and honored. We have our pastor with us, Pastor Randy McAllister.
Hello.
Thank you for being with us. We're excited. This is our testimony series, so we're having our pastors and leaders on. We also have Garrett with us.
Yep, it's good to be here.
And we're excited to have Garrett on the program with us and just to be here. He's been helping out with our youth ministry, and it's been awesome, and we appreciate you so much. So we are going to get right into it today. I just wanted to let everybody know that if you have questions for us, feel free to email them in to vcfrevivalyouth@gmail.com. You can put LC in the subject line, or you can text us at 509-402-3446. Please forgive me. I'm just getting over being sick, so if I sound really nasally, that is why. And I do have a little bit of a story today that is kind of embarrassing, but it's I think it's worth talking about. So, I think that toilet seats. they are. You would think the toilet seats are supposed to be pretty sturdy, right? I mean, you would think so. We bought one from Home Depot probably about a couple months ago, and I was on. This is TMI, but I was on the toilet the other day, and all of a sudden, I hear a noise that sounds like somebody shot a .22 outside, and I look down, and the toilet seat has cracked, and I'm going to show, we have YouTube, so we have this audio on YouTube. We'll put a picture.
Can I ask a question?
In there.
It
literally cracked.
Did it pinch really hard?
It pinched it did pinch me.
Oh, man.
So,
my goodness.
It split, and I'm thinking, I'm not a real heavy guy, so I'm thinking, man, like, it's got to be a faulty seat or something. So, I don't know, what would you guys do in that situation? Are you calling for the refund or are you not?
That's too embarrassing. I mean, you gotta just eat. You're eating the $30 and you're gonna go get a new one.
Okay. I mean, it was like 50.
I feel like that's a Karen move to kind of just be like, yeah, hey, I sat on this toilet seat, it broke. Now I need a refund.
Let me tell you.
Unless it's like heated. Is it heated?
But I think, if I could throw my opinion in, I think that might even make the newspaper.
It might. It might. Garrett, are you calling for the refund?
Yeah, I'd bring that sucker in and go ask for a refund.
Okay. So this is what I do. So I'm thinking that, it's a toilet seat. That's kind of gross. I don't have the receipt, but everybody has always told me, just ask. Yeah. Always ask, and Matthew says to ask, seek, and knock.
That's right.
So I call Home Depot and I say, this is kind of embarrassing, but it's just what happened. I cracked this toilet seat. I bought this like 2 months ago. I don't have a receipt. She goes, well, we could actually look it up by your card info and we can verify. And she goes, yep, we verified that you bought this 2 months ago. Bring it in. Or she said, come in. I said, you guys probably don't want the toilet seat, right? She goes, yeah, we actually need the toilet seat. So now I got to bring this toilet seat in. Yeah, I know. I said, don't worry, I will Clorox the crap out of this thing. Sorry, but I
literally. Yeah.
So this weekend, I will be going into Home Depot with my cracked toilet seat, and I will be getting a replacement.
Hey, good for you.
You know what?
Good for you.
What I will do for I mean, that's $50, man. It wasn't a cheap one.
Way to stand up for yourself.
It wasn't a cheap one. So that's my highlight of the week. I'm getting a new toilet seat and replacing my cracked one.
Hey, praise the Lord. It's a praise report.
You got to do what you got to do.
You do. So the picture, just for your listeners, you can't appreciate this story until you see the picture.
Yeah. If you listen on YouTube, we're gonna put it on with the audio.
You
can go in and check it out.
We should put that on the big screens at church.
Yes, it was a clean break.
Yeah,
it was a clean break. I will say it's a newer toilet seat. It's not nasty, but anyway. So,
is there a toilet seat that's not nasty?
I mean, that's true. It's probably nasty, but it doesn't look. It looks nice. So, oh boy. Anyway, we'll get we'll move along here. We only got so much time, but first of all, I want to lead out with just a couple of questions for you. First of all, I just want to ask you, what would you say your favorite thing about being a pastor is?
Oh, man. I would have to say that my favorite thing about being a pastor is that moment that you get to be in a room. Like probably my favorite time of being a pastor is when people are welcoming each other.
Yeah.
I love that whole dynamic.
Yeah.
I love altar calls.
Mm-hmm.
I love to watch what happens in people when they're moved on by the Holy Spirit, especially when you don't know them really well, and they're just beginning to encounter the Lord. In Pastor Nathan, there are so many things. As I was contemplating just walking in here, I just said this to myself. I have lived a blessed life. Mm-hmm. I have. If I were to die today, I've lived a blessed life.
Wow.
I've got to witness. The church has been my heartbeat.
Yeah.
I've had the privilege of pastoring.
Yeah.
And every part of it, the laughter, the tears, coming alongside. I mean, Pastor Carlos and your wife, you just walked through something. I mean, the privilege of being able to cry with people.
Yeah.
Walk with people, disciple people. Even sitting in this room, the short time we've been doing programs in this new studio, over and over and over, it will roll over me the privilege of sitting in here with people.
Yeah.
And getting to live life alongside so many different people.
Yeah, that's powerful. It's powerful. And so for you, for going back to, well, really the beginning, kind of just starting from the beginning, where were you born, first of all, and just when and all of that? I
was born on February the 27th, 1968, at Deaconess Hospital in Spokane, Washington.
And that's where you guys. I mean, obviously, I'm your nephew, but like timeline wise, for the listeners, how long you guys lived in Spokane for a while, right?
Yeah, probably 5, 6, 7 years.
Okay, so you don't really remember a lot.
I remember. It's funny. There are flashes of memory. Some of them, I believe with all of my heart, were preserved in my memory for the sole purpose of walking with God. I remember very distinctly, you all have heard me say this many, many times, and you will one day be old like me, but the grace of God that reached down into my family, I don't know. I mean, I won't know until I get home to be with the Lord, whether my grandfather prayed, my mom and my dad, and I don't know who did.
Yeah.
But my mother and dad, my dad was an evil man before he got saved. He was a very dark man. He's a very broken man, and destroyed his first marriage. I was just talking about this as we were recording this morning, and I was saying this, that the older I've gotten, the more heartbroken I am for my dad's first wife. He never loved her. He said that. He said, I married her because we were going to war. And he said, I thought, my dad was 20 years old when the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor. And he said every young man in America thought they were dying. They thought, I mean, the World War II had been going on around the world. It had been going on for 2 or 3 years. And we just hadn't been in it. And he said, you're hearing the dying, the killing, millions of people being killed in the Soviet Union, all over Europe. And he said, you're just literally waiting for it to come to your door. And so he said, I wanted to be married before I died. And he said, I married my first wife. And he said, I never should have. It was unfair to her. And then he became an alcoholic. Very young in life. He started drinking very heavy. Had 3 boys with her. My father was adulterous, serially adulterous. I was saying this on Morning in the Word, that we're teaching a series on the baptism with the Holy Spirit. And it's interesting that Paul says in 1 Corinthians 14 that tongues are a sign to the lost. And I grew up, my dad would tell me this story 5, 6, 7 times. The very first time I remember my dad telling this story I'm about to tell, we lived in Olympia. I must have been 6 or 7 years old. And we're sitting around a table, and it's just a flash. I don't remember I hardly remember anything else about Olympia. But we're sitting around a table, and my dad is telling us about when he was with his first wife. And she knew they were losing their marriage. And this is in the 50s. And she knew, or the 40s. And she knew she was losing him. And she loved him. And she said, Mac, we need to go to church. Everybody called my dad Mac. His name was actually Dewey. But they went to a Little Assemblies of God in Twin Falls, Idaho. My dad has never been in church in his life, ever. He had never stepped foot into a church. First time he ever been in a church in his life. And they walk into a Pentecostal church. And he said that at some point in the service, this young man stood up, and he had his hands raised, and he was weeping, and he started to speak in tongues. He said he was trembling. And my dad said that single moment would come back to him when he was sleeping in doorways, when he was dying of alcoholism, when he was killing his second family. He said that picture of that man would come back to him. And he said this, he said, that day I thought, if I ever get this monkey off my back, alcoholism, he said to himself, he said, I want what that man had.
Yeah.
And he said that thing held him. I am 5, 6, 7 years old in Olympia, and my dad is telling this to us. And I don't know why.
Yeah.
I mean, your dad was the oldest of the 5, and your dad would have been 10 or 11, maybe. And yet he is sitting around with these little kids, and he's telling us this. And I will always believe that these were moments that God was pouring into me, knowing, God is pouring into your dad, knowing what our futures would be. Yeah. But to answer your question, when we were in Spokane, the flash I remember is after I have one memory before my dad got saved, and I have one memory after my dad got saved. The first memory I have before he got saved is I remember being outside, and I remember that inside of our house was dark, like emotionally, spiritually, atmospherically dark. So I wanted to be outside a lot. And then I also remember that where we lived on Kernan in Spokane it's still a very poor area, and that our back alley was full of dead cats. There were dead cat carcasses everywhere. So that's the memory I have before my dad's salvation. The memory I have after my dad's salvation is a flash of being in the back seat of our big black Buick, and we're at Arctic Circle. My dad was such a bad alcoholic that we didn't have any food. There was depression and heaviness in our home, and there was no food. Your dad would steal money from your grandpa before he got saved. He would steal money and he would hide it so that we would have food to eat. I remember your dad getting caught by your grandpa stealing money, and I remember your dad crying and saying, I stole it because we need to eat. Yeah. And your dad, Nathan, your dad couldn't have been more than 9 or 10, just a little boy. Yeah. But the flash I have after Dad got saved is there was joy. Yeah. I didn't understand it. I don't understand anything. Yeah. I only know what I feel. Yeah. And what I used to feel was fear. Yeah. But when Jesus Christ came into my dad's life, it changed. I mean, everything changed. Yeah. I never, ever felt the same in our home ever again. Wow. Our home never had that darkness or that heaviness or that hopelessness ever again. Never did that spirit come back. And we're sitting, the flash I remember, we're sitting at Arctic Circle, and there's joy.
Yeah.
There's joy in that car. And I think about this. My dad would have been, if I was 5, my dad was 53 years old with 5 little kids.
Wow.
I'm 58, and my kids are raised.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think about this a lot, but those are the 2 memories I have in Spokane. Is those two. One before my dad got saved. It's interesting, and we're men sitting here, the 4 of us. My mom was saved. My mom was saved.
Yeah.
But she was not the driver of the atmosphere of our home. My dad was.
Yes, yeah.
And I don't largely remember, even though my mom was saved, I don't largely remember that she had any power over the atmosphere.
Yeah.
But my dad did.
Yeah.
When Dad got saved, the atmosphere changed.
Yeah.
And it changed forever.
Yeah. And you guys moved to Olympia. And then how long were you in Olympia before you moved to...
I think we were only in Olympia maybe a year and a half.
Okay.
Then we moved to Lake Stevens.
Okay.
We were in Lake Stevens 1 year.
Wow.
And then we moved to Marysville. And we were in Marysville from the time I was in 2nd grade. I started 2nd grade in Marysville, and I moved to Orville when I was 17.
Okay.
So we were there 10 years.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And so what do you remember? Because I know you had an experience, a pretty like a serious salvation experience at a young age.
Yeah.
And that was in Marysville, right?
So it's interesting that and by the way, I want to say I am privileged to be on this program. And I'm even more privileged to be sitting here with 3 young men of God. And I want you to know that. I want you to know that this life, should Jesus tarry, I hope you get to live my life.
Yeah.
I hope that what I've enjoyed, you get to enjoy. So I want to say that. But when we moved to Marysville, I was 7 years old, and my dad and my mom had worked for the same people. They owned a private oil company. And my dad, as you, Nathan, probably know from your dad, my dad could make a wall talk.
Mm-hmm.
He loved people.
Yeah.
And genuinely. I mean, he did not put it, he loved people. And my dad could take any business. I don't care how dead it was. He could take it and turn it around and make it profitable.
Wow.
And it wasn't because he was a smart businessman. But when my dad got saved, my dad had a passion for people.
Yeah. Yeah.
He did. He loved people. And he loved their story. He loved to laugh with them. He loved to tease, He loved people. And so they moved my dad around a lot. They would find a broken gas station, mini mart, and they would send my mom and dad there and build it up and get it healthy and move them on to the next one.
Wow.
Well, finally, in Marysville, my mom said, we're not doing this anymore. We're going to stay in one place and raise our kids.
Yeah.
And so my dad had to go to his bosses and say, look, you got to plant us somewhere. So my dad became a district manager, but we lived in Marysville, and then he would go out from there. But so we moved to Marysville. Interesting little thing. And I don't know. I know, Carlos, I know you've had this experience, and probably the 2 of you have too. But Satan tried to kill me when I was little. I remember it very distinctly that I had a bike, and I rode out into traffic, and I did it I don't even know what I was thinking, but I did it on purpose. And I remember just not having any fear. And it was Highway 9.
Wow.
It's a busy highway. Yeah. And this truck, I'll never forget, this man and his girlfriend were in this truck. They were young. They must have been in their early 20s. He skidded for probably 30 or 40 feet, and his bumper was no farther away than you are, Carlos, from me.
Wow.
I mean, he came that close. I remember that he broke down and he started crying.
Wow.
He was behind a steering wheel, and he put his head on the steering wheel and started to bawl because he knew he almost killed me. And that would have been the same year And so I'm a dramatic person, but I believe this.
Yeah.
I believe this is true with you and you and you. I believe that God had a design for my life.
Yeah.
And when I'm 7 years old, my mom and dad are attending the Marysville Nazarene Church. It's a tiny little building. And they had a children's crusade. It was would have been the summer of 1975. And my dad made Jody, me, and Sherry and Carrie go. Your dad didn't have to go. I don't know how he got out of it, but he did. And so we go to this children's crusade. You guys have all heard me tell this story. But we went to this children's crusade, and the evangelist and his wife, he dressed up as Snoopy.
Mm.
And then they had a big Snoopy house, big, huge dog house. And then she preached, and everything was a Snoopy theme. Mm. They gave out Snoopy cookies, Snoopy soap,
That's cool.
I remember it. I mean, I just remember it stuck in my mind. And they give an altar call to be saved. And I responded to the altar call, and I remember that there were people at that altar I would end up growing up with. We would go to high school together. Marshall Leaf, a young man that would end up dying very violently in a car accident, knelt at the altar the same night I did. Wow. We were both just little boys.
Yeah.
And but anyway, that night there were altar workers there, and I was the only one that I know of. I may not have been, but I know nobody ever came and prayed with me. Nobody did. And that night, God told me, I have called you to pastor. I've called you to be a pastor. And I went home. I can see this as clear as a bell. I remember going home, and I remember going to my mom and standing in our kitchen in Marysville, Washington, this little broken down greenhouse. And I remember I was crying. And my mom said, "What's wrong?" And I said, "God told me tonight I'm going to be a pastor." And she said, "I knew that." She said, "Your dad and I have always known you were called to the ministry." And so there was that. And then when I was 12 years old is when I actually invited Christ into my life. It was September of 1980, and it was at Calvary Cathedral, 116th Street in Marysville, Washington. And Sunday night service, sitting next to my older sister Jody. Jody was reading a book. She had it pinned between her legs so my parents wouldn't see the book. And she was reading a book and wasn't listening and I wasn't listening. I couldn't tell you a thing that pastor said, but all I remember is when he gave the altar call, the Holy Spirit brought conviction over my life.
Yeah. And
I remember being so scared that Jody wouldn't understand it, or Jody, my sister Jody and I were very, very close. But that night I was 12, she was 15. She never walked the aisle. She wouldn't walk the aisle for many years later. But that night I walked the aisle and gave my life to Christ. And as we've all said, it was like 500 pounds was taken off of my shoulders instantaneously.
Yeah.
And because it's not what you've done, it's what you are. Yeah. And I was born into sin.
Yeah.
And I remember going home that night, and I remember sitting around with my entire family, and I remember knowing I was born again. And I couldn't stop crying. I got home and I couldn't stop crying. And so those are three of my Marysville experiences.
Yeah. Wow. And then obviously that we're getting short on time now, but that is like a start of a journey.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's challenges that come with teenage years.
Oh yeah.
And there's challenges
absolutely.
that I know, obviously just hearing your story before and obviously being your nephew, that I know that there was more to come that we will get into, but it's amazing, at a young age you can have that experience.
Yeah, that's right.
And
absolutely.
you can know Jesus, and it's real.
Yeah, it is.
And it's real
yes,
at
it
a
is.
young age. And You know, I mean, that was, I am thankful and blessed to have the people that I've had around me to be able to shelter me, you know, and help from a young age when that was a commitment for me.
Yeah.
You know, and to be able to, obviously teenage years, you know, are real.
Yeah.
And the enemy's going to throw everything that he can.
right.
But we'll get into that. Be sure to listen to the next program. We're excited to get into the rest of this testimony. So thank you so much for us on Loud and Clear. We'll catch you next time.
Tune in to Loud and Clear every Thursday at 7 p.m. or listen online at kgtcradio.com.